It's no secret, NBA players make an absurd amount of money. The real question is which players are actually worth the money that gets spent on them. Obviously, some players are trying to play as many games as possible, but what about the select few players that are always sitting out due to injury, personal reasons, or the fact that they just don't feel like playing today? So, with that being said, today we have the top 10 highest paid players per point in the NBA, also known as earnings per point scored. Starting us off at number 10 with the 10th highest earnings per point is Steph Curry. Now, earnings per point is going to kind of be seen as a negative stat later in this video because the guys at the top of this list are getting paid a whole lot of money to do a whole lot of nothing. With that being said, you might be wondering, why is Steph Curry on this list? That is simply because over his 16-year career, he has grossed $410,534,690. But it's no secret, Steph can score the ball. Over his career, he has amassed 24,127 points. So, after a little bit of quick math, we come out to $17,015.57 per point. Yeah, not too shabby, but as you will soon find out, Steph Curry is the only player on this list that is worth that money. Following him up at number 9 with a very similar score is Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, JJJ is still very early into his career, but he has still amassed over $110 million. After a few injuries and a couple setbacks, he only has 6,400 points on the board. And I know, he plays down low, but that still comes out to $17,141.93 per point. He's getting paid the same amount of money as Steph Curry is to put the ball in the basket. Defense is worth a lot of money, I guess. At number 8, we got Chris Paul. Now, this one makes a lot of sense to me because obviously Chris Paul is not a scoring first guard. He's primarily looking to pass, and he's gotten paid to the tune of $400 million over his career to do so. But with that being said, he has played a ton of games, and despite being a pass first guard, he scores the ball quite a bit, finding his way to 22,538 career points. So after pulling out a calculator, we find out that Chris Paul has stolen $17,764.19 per point for no rings. And don't worry, I know these first three were very similar, but from here on out, there are much bigger gaps between the players. With that being said, at number 7, we got Mr. Injuries himself, Paul George. Now, this guy being on the list makes a lot more sense than Steph Curry. This guy's injured all the time, and he still slurps up these massive contracts that have paid him a total of $354 million. Despite all the injuries, he has still racked up 18,272 points throughout his career. And since he's always injured, when he finally plays, he's worth $19,403.34 per point. Now, yes, Paul George is obviously a great player, but he is definitely not worth that kind of money per point. Some of that money must have gone to his new theme song, man. Dude, so smooth. But at number 6, we have the biggest NBA thief of all time, Joel Embiid. Dude steals MVPs, he steals happiness of the kids that want to watch him when he doesn't play, and he also steals $265 million from the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, Joel Embiid knows how to score. He's racked up 12,000 points in his career already. The problem is he doesn't play, and because of his lack of playing time, he is worth $21,803.11 per point. If you're getting paid that kind of money to put the ball in the basket, you should be trying your hardest to get into the games. Injuries are the reason why Embiid gets paid so much money per point. But at number 5, Marvin Bagley is just straight up overpaid. This guy is so bad, I honestly struggled finding a highlight video. The longest one I could find was this one, and it's only 2 minutes. I'm convinced. I think the Washington Wizards are where the overpaid athletes of the NBA go to die, because Marvin Bagley has found himself $73 million throughout his career. And despite playing 7 seasons in the NBA, he's only contributed 3,400 points. It does not take a genius to figure out that that ratio is not good. In fact, it's $22,455 not good. That is literally the definition of a whole lot of money for a whole lot of nothing. And I was convinced this man was going to be a star coming out of college. Moving on to number 4, at a similar price, we have John Wall. This one makes a lot of sense too. This guy could hoop, but he got injured all the time. This man's upside was so high. A lot of teams were willing to take the injury risk, and they paid him $276 million to do so. However, when he did play, he hooped, and he scored 12,000 points throughout his injury-riddled career. Because of these massive contracts, he's worth a whopping $22,872 per point. Personally, I think these points might actually be worth that money because when John Wall played, he put on a show. And now, moving into the top 3, these guys get paid an outrageous amount of money per point. With that being said, at number 3, we got Zion Williamson, one of the most hyped up prospects I've ever seen come into the league. And because of this, the Pelicans have paid him $114 million to run around in his warm-up these past 5 years. However, he has found his way to the court a few times, and he scored 4,600 points throughout his short career. Despite all the hype, there is no way Zion Williamson is worth $24,474 per point. Hopefully he gets healthy soon to get that number down. At number 2, give me Rudy Gobert. This man's on the list because he plays defense, and yeah, he's good at it. He's so good that he's gotten paid $261 million to play it throughout his career. I'm not denying that defense is definitely worth some money, but only scoring 9,800 points throughout your career is just not going to cut it. Especially when the points you do end up scoring on offense cost $26,482. Even if I added the 1,000 blocks he has in his career, he would still be a very expensive player. Before I get to number 1, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with a friend. And finally, the most expensive per point player ever is none other than Ben Simmons. Even though he's been injured, refused to play, and who knows what else, he's still racked up $203 million throughout his career. And yes, he is a pass-first player as well, but his lack of playing time has led him to a measly 4,800 points throughout his career. And because of this, he has found his way to be worth $41,748 per point. Oh, and by the way, he doesn't shoot threes, so every time he scores the ball, he cashes in $83,000. I know Ben Simmons ain't worth it, so comment below which player you think is actually worth $41,000 per point.